Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our professional interview series for Georgia State's Kinesiology and Health Department. Today, I'm here with Coach Yo, the player development coach for the women's basketball team at Georgia Tech and former student athlete and former coach at Georgia State University. Coach Yo, welcome today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. So we want to get into like what you do. So can you describe as a player development coach for the women's basketball team, what you do and what a typical day looks like? I guess we'll talk about maybe what a typical day looks like now in 2020, and then maybe highlight some of the differences from before COVID-19, before March, and then after.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do. So player development is basically the same as strength and conditioning. Depending on where you go, depending on what college, they have just different titles, but they're all synonymous.
Mhm.
My day to day, it is, I wake up every day at 4:45 a.m. Our practice block is from 8 to noon. But before that, I train myself. So that's usually my time to experiment, maybe do something that I know the ladies are going to do, or just my own just training session. So that kind of how that starts. And now in 2020, we have practice blocks. And once that block is done, we pretty much get out of here. We don't want too many people in the building. So that's kind of how that one goes. Prior to that, there wasn't necessarily blocks. It was, we had a team here at this time, then maybe we overlapped a bit with another team kind of thing. So now we're much more structured in making sure that our blocks stay our blocks for each team, knowing people in the weight room, that type of deal. But days can get really long either way it goes. So that's kind of how we play it with that one.
All right, great. So you were a track and field athlete for Georgia State University, achieved both your bachelor's and your master's through Georgia State. Can we talk about like I guess starting first at your undergraduate, was there a coach in particular that sort of drove you towards this position, or was it like going in as a freshman, you always knew you wanted to be in this environment, helping athletes become stronger, become faster, or was it something that you kind of found as you went through the undergraduate program?
That's a great question. I think it's actually kind of a mix of the people who influenced me, my coaches, who just motivated me every day. But I really dived into strength and conditioning as a career objective for myself my sophomore year in college, mainly because when I came in my freshman year, strength and conditioning wasn't really a thing, right? So, and being in track and field, I was a thrower. And so strength and power, force, that's a big part of that. And so my freshman year, I just saw how training played huge dividends in my performance. And I fell in love with it at that point. And it just helped that my strength coach at the time, which was like a mix between my throws coach, Coach Heather, and the strength coach, Coach Dorsey, Coach Terry. I don't think they're there anymore, but they were just great people. They influenced me in such positive ways, and they helped me fall in love with it. So my sophomore year was probably the year I said, okay, now I know what I want to do. I was able to, be MVP high field performer that year, my freshman year. So it was like, okay, this is what this does for me.
Right.
I can train, I can
works.
control, and it works. It works. Right. And so behold, never looked back since.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just a side question here. So as far as your training goes, you're waking up every morning. Are you doing similar things that you were doing as an athlete? Are you working on, strength and power? Have you sort of backed away and experiment with other sort of modalities of training, or?
Oh man. What a question, Chris. I do every single thing. If it's a new type of example, triphasic was a big thing. And so I spent some time doing that, spent some time in the 5-3-1 program. So I try programs out. I try to make sure that I do the things that I have my athletes do. May not be in that same exact order, because I'm not a spring chicken anymore, Chris. I can't do some of the stuff like I used to. But definitely have done everything that I have given them. I've done in the past or currently. Like, my training is very versatile, Olympic based, power based. We want to call it sports specific,
Right.
So it's definitely a blend of everything, and it's probably what my body can take at the time, to be honest.
Yeah. So actually, I didn't plan on going this direction, but since we're here talking about specific sort of strength and conditioning, what sort of period are we in right now for Georgia Tech women's basketball? What are we focusing on? And, as far as like the season is concerned, their strength and conditioning, I suppose right now you guys are getting prepared. Can we talk about, I guess, more of the programming for the athletes and what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. So, because it is 2020, I started off a little bit later than I needed to, or that I wanted to. Usually we can start off-season training in June, and in June we truly work into, high force, then we go into power. But because I had some ladies come in end of June, July, then I had some ladies come in at the end of August. Right now I have kind of two different things going on. I have my younger group, my freshmen, and they're still working on strength. Movement capacity, word capacity, strength, that's their thing, right? Quality of movement before we try and hit anything really fast. So that's theirs. My returners, I have some returners here who are probably 1 year with me. Then I have returners who are now our older heads, our seniors. And so they're working on, at this point, high force. So resistance bands, some tempos, ISOs, exploding hurdle hops,
right.
Repeated effort. So they're on that part of their cycle. But because we're going into in season, hopefully we play soon this month, cross my fingers, then we'll go into just the maintenance phase. And the maintenance phase is a loose term. My freshmen will still work on strength. They will still work on movement capacity. My older heads will still work on just quick, high force reps, simple, again, movement, and just maintaining their strength right now. I think the biggest thing I can do for them, because the season is so out of sorts, is to just get them strong. Right. And have them move well. Yeah. So that's my intent.
Excellent. All right. So going back a little bit, so rewind the clock. Your time at Georgia State University. Did you have, before you were an intern at Georgia State University, but did you have any jobs or any sort of volunteering within the exercise health science field? Were you coaching at any point before that internship? And if not, maybe we could just talk about your internship experience and what your day-to-day was like there as well.
So being at Georgia State and being a part of an athletics department that was growing. By the time I was there, we had a weight room. So I literally submerged myself in that part. So while I was an athlete, I spent time in the offices. I spent time getting to know my coaches. I spent time asking questions, getting them to understand, like, this is something that I want to do. And I had some part-time jobs as far as like personal training type of deal. Cause that's, it was pretty easy. It's like, okay, right. I don't have to take so much time away from being a student athlete. I can do some personal training. I can learn a little bit. I can learn how the body moves, maybe for a regular population, and have some younger kids, so that part was pretty influential, because it's like, okay, I'm getting started off. Now it's just one person, it's not a team, but I'm learning how to interact and build relationships. So that's one. And when I graduated, I immediately became the graduate assistant in the weight room. And so that's 2 years right there, just being submerged in the field, like real life. I had tennis, I had basketball, I had track and field. So I was completely submerged in that. And during the summer, when I wasn't at Georgia State, I would volunteer / do an internship, I guess you want to call it, at Georgia Tech. So went down the street, got to know something that's a little bit different, a different coach, a different atmosphere, Power 5. And so I got a lot of experience there as well, which would explain why I got this job at Georgia Tech now.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's something we stress all the time. And I say a lot, it's like getting your foot in the door. I mean, the earlier the better. And it doesn't matter if you're 20 years old and have no experience whatsoever. If you're willing to work and you're asking questions like you did and you're willing to help, I mean, look at where it could take you. So, you know, you're a prime example of that there. So can we talk about, again, like relating to your path, was there any like struggles or any, of course there's going to be things, but were there anything in particular that really surprised you as far as the field itself, and maybe, you know, your path of getting to where you are today?
I think the biggest thing that it truly comes to mind for me is how hard it is to get a job. To get that first job and secure it is not really easy. The field that I'm in, strength and conditioning, especially at the collegiate level, a lot of it is who you're connected with, or who you know, or who knows you.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, people want to go with who they know they can trust. And so having a resume that maybe is just completely cold, you don't know who it is, it can make coaches kind of hesitant. And so that part was very surprising to me, how hard it actually is. And I have colleagues and friends who just struggle to find a job. And that part was tough. I really couldn't believe it. I was like, if I have all these certifications, right, and I'm qualified, then why is it so hard?
Can you talk about the certifications you actually have so students know, like, okay, like what sort of certification should I be looking into?
Yeah. I have the USAW, this weightlifting. I have that one. I have the CSCS, and then I have the CSCCA.
Mm-hmm. So even with all of those, I mean, you know, if you're out here and you're trying to get, like we said, your foot in the door, it's still, like you said, a very who knows who sort of game, it seems like.
Because
Yeah.
think about it. Let's say you want to use Georgia Tech for an example. You want to come to Georgia Tech. However, there's only one spot, right? There's only one position that's available, but then you get 500 plus applicants. You know, who do you think? Someone's going to go with a candidate who they know they can do the job at this level, right? They're not going to necessarily care. Everybody has the same certifications. So what sets you apart? If everybody has the same certifications, which you need, right? CSCS, CSCCA,
Of course.
but that doesn't guarantee you anything.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So maybe towards a more positive note, what's your favorite part about the job? Coming in every single day, like what do you love about this field, your position?
The potential for impact every single day, mainly with the young men and women that I come across every day. They, you know, when they leave home, they look and see what the people are doing around them. They watch your behaviors, they watch your actions, they listen to what you say, and then you start to see them, you know, think for themselves or kind of carry themselves how they see. And so every single day, I know that there's an influence that I give to someone, and I think the relationship part of it is extremely like priceless. It's priceless, absolutely priceless.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So in your position, what do you think the most important qualities are? Like if you were hiring, let's say maybe an assistant or something, someone to, you know, have a similar role as you, what are those most important qualities that you would look for?
Number one, I want to know that you care, but not just care about yourself, but care about the position that you're in and care about the relationships that you can build. That would be number one. Number two is being able to adapt and adjust. The field is forever flowing, it's moving. You may have a plan one day and then coaches may change it up, or something just didn't go how you thought it would go. That's out of your control. So being able to be proactive, adapt, adjust, and still find value in how you adjusted it, if that makes sense, right? That is what I truly look for.
Okay.
That's what you look for.
Right. So let's say you now, Coach Yo now, we're going back to, I don't want to date you, we're going back a few years back to your freshman undergraduate years at Georgia State University. What advice now would you give her as far as like what to look out for? Maybe some things to start off early as far as like prepping to have a career within strength and conditioning, have a career within working with athletes. Is there anything in particular that you think you would highlight to yourself?
Uh, don't don't chase perfectionism. Don't chase it. Don't chase it. It's just an unattainable goal. And I find that now being open, being open is way more applicable to this collegiate setting. Just because if I can write this elaborate program down, I can write this elaborate program 3 days a week. We got 50 minutes to get it done, and you have to do exactly this way, and you find success. Well, it doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't happen that way. There will be things that happen in practice that you may need to adjust, you may need to modify. There may be a really bad day that we don't understand as coaches, but maybe this young athlete went through something and it changes that. But everything with strength and conditioning is not black and white. It's not black and white. So if you're trying to chase something that's a whole yes and stay away from the no's, you're going to continue to spin your wheels. Be open-minded and don't chase perfection. That's what I tell myself that today, actually, Chris, to be honest with you. Tell myself that today. So, yeah.
All right. So you have to work with not only student athletes, but you of course have a whole coaching staff. So can you get into a little bit as far as being a professional and working with other coaches, maybe the interactions that you guys have every single week, and how much real planning and teamwork it takes to, have your student athletes prepared for a season and even in the off season as well?
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's another great question. I think it definitely does take a skill to not only work with student athletes, but to also work with coaches and administration. And that goes into understanding that your coaches are going to want what they want, right? Especially if you're in basketball or football, more than likely you're getting the job because the coach wants you, the sport coach, right? So you kind of got to know your lane. So I know my lane. I don't fall into their lane on the court. I know my lane. And one thing that I have learned is that coaches actually want you, well, I will say this in my regard right now, current state, they want you to just do your job. They want you to do your job, do it well, explain to them in simple terms, and then keep doing it. So I think I just learned that every coach is different, personality wise, but I think the one thing that is similar is that they want their young ladies and their young men to be on the court. They want them to be better than they were the day before, in your control. But they definitely want to see just progress. And that progress to be seen doesn't have to be extremely elaborate. Coaches don't need just elaborate this and elaborate that. They want, okay, she looked like she's moving a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Right? That's they want to see forward progress.
Right.
So I think it's, just our job as strength coaches to simplify that for them, right? Like, hey, coach, this young lady was benching 115 and now she's at 135, right? More times than not, I don't have to say that. The athlete will say that to their coach because hey, look what I did. Mm-hmm. And that's all. That's it. They just want to see that. So I don't say too much. I try not to dilute any conversation with terms that they may not know or don't understand. I just try to keep everything as simple for everyone as possible.
Right.
Everyone as possible. And I think that's kind of like the art to it, right? Just being proactive, keeping it simple, and finding a way to progress that athlete.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right. So you've held, man, your resume, so you were director for Olympic sports at Appalachian State. Like we said, you've held strength and conditioning positions at now multiple universities. As far as like skill set is concerned, maybe things that you learned early on that you're still using today. Is there anything, that you learned early on that, okay, this is something that I need to implement, with all my athletes or, so I imagine what I'm trying to get at is, are there any particular skills that you have retained and from all these different positions that you still use today?
Mhm, mhm. I think number one will be surprising, as I'm a strength and conditioning coach, is truly and honestly relationship building. That's it. Again, I can have the best program in the world on paper, but if my athlete does not buy into it, or they don't think that I'm confident in what I'm saying, or they don't believe in what I'm doing, it's just words and numbers on the paper. That's it.
Hmm.
That is it. The golden thing is building the relationship so your athletes can understand that you are there for them. You're there to make them a better athlete at the end of the day. And if they can buy into that, they would do anything. They would,
Right.
and they do it with a purpose, or they do it with some type of intention. Everything. If you're a strength and conditioning coach and you want to be great, start with relationship building.
Wow.
Literally.
I think that's great advice. All right. Speaking of advice, we'll wrap this up here with one final thing. If you were to, well, you are now, you're speaking to some future professional strength and conditioning coaches, what advice would you give them? If they are trying to enter this field, if they're trying to excel, maybe get a position one day at a major university, working with athletes and helping them improve programming and helping them in, with their skill set. So what advice would you give to them?
Continue to stay open-minded. Training is simple, complex, unique, different, and everything in between. So don't put yourself in a corner by saying this works and this doesn't. Remain open-minded, live in the gray area. Everything has a reason, everything has a place, everything has a time.
That was excellent. Excellent. Coach Yo, thank you so much. We really appreciate you logging on today and talking with us. And, best of luck in the future and great success, this year with your team and, wish you luck in the future. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much.
all right.
And I think I would be remiss to say I think we scrimmaged Georgia State on the 25th.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I don't know, or scrimmage, or maybe it's our first game. I think it might be our first game actually. So I will be around. It'd be nice. I don't know how fans are. I don't know if we're gonna have fans or not, but just keep that in the back.
Man, yeah, I'm sure, we're all looking forward to, a little bit. It's great that sports are back and it's great that, to see the athletes out there. But man, I think we all just want to be back in the stands and a little bit back to normal. So
Back to normal, whatever that might mean.
Yeah, whatever that means. Thank you, Coach Yo.
Thank you. Thank you.